Gawn ni syth ymlaen fan i edrych ar yr elfen...
We'll move on to look at the literacy aspect immediately, which is in the mandatory, Welsh and English rather. So over to Katrin, who'll start to lead us through the implications of where the Welsh language, and then Louise will talk about the English. Over to you, Katrin. I won't apologise for the pictures that you see. You'll see my screen, hopefully. Hopefully, you will have enjoyed the half term and had an opportunity to relax. Although, if you've been in the Eisteddfod, you're still recuperating because it's been a busy week. I'm going to start with the happy. Firstly, we need to discuss the huge celebrations from the football win. Football has put Wales on the international map and has triggered some interest in the Welsh language generally. I can't portray how important it was for me to see singing with Dafydd Iwan in the game. It was such an emotional and proud moment for me, and I'm sure we all take pride in the fact that Ian Gwyn Hughes has drawn attention worldwide to our language and culture and history and heritage, and who'd think that the Eye would give a heading that My Cymru and Mindy Qatar in the Eye yesterday. Many of you will have been a part of the Eisteddfod in Denbighshire, and it's been great to enjoy the environment there. Congratulations to all of the competitors and the schools who were a part of supporting that huge celebration since the organisation was established 100 years ago. As Arwyn said earlier, reflecting on last week, looking at the Eisteddfod on the television and visiting at the end of the week and enjoying the excitement of the football and seeing the passion tied to everything and knowing how much work and preparing and practice and perseverance, facing challenges, learning from mistakes and aiming high, underlines to me how central the four purposes are to develop a proud Wales that is ambitious, adventurous, enterprising, principled, informed, healthy and confident. This quote at the end of the slide from the four purposes, which is that all pupils should be able to communicate effectively in different forms in Wales, in Welsh and English, sets the aim by the time our pupils are 16 years of age. So why do we need to do that? And how do we aim for that? We do know that bilingualism opens doors and enables pupils to have a better understanding of more than one culture and to expand their horizons. So what better opportunity to ensure an obvious place within the design of your curriculum? I'll guide you briefly this morning through elements of the Welsh language, explaining why, and then explaining practically what's there for schools to consider and how every school will tackle this, recognising, of course, that all schools are at unique places and have different contexts and challenges. English is also mandatory, and whilst that will vary in your provision and depending on your linguistic category and your language policy, the important message is that you're very clear as to where you're at in relation to the Welsh and English language, that you know what support is available to develop, and that you are confident and that you do everything you can to develop your learners to be able to achieve this aim. The aim by the Welsh Government that ties to the four purposes, which is the 1 million Welsh speakers by 2050, the ambition is to increase the use of the Welsh language and the numbers that speak the language. And it's a strategy for the whole of Wales, and education is a crucial part of that strategy. Through the 1 million Welsh speakers strategy, the hope is to create an environment for the Welsh language to be achievable for all, and so that every speaker, whatever their level, can choose to use their skills and to get encouragement and assistance to develop the skills further if they want to do so, in an environment that is inclusive and positive. As I mentioned earlier, the role of the schools in this is essential, which means that we need to transform the way that we teach Welsh for all, so that at least 70% of those learners can say by 2050 that they can speak Welsh by the time they leave school. What do we therefore need to do, and what will your curriculum do to help this strategy? There are 3 themes for the strategy. First of all, increasing the number of Welsh speakers, increasing the use of the Welsh language, and thirdly, creating favourable conditions. All 3 themes are codependent, and also a number of the aims under each heading. For instance, as we increase the number of children who receive the Welsh education, we need to give opportunities and context for them to be able to use the skills that they've gained. And in addition, we need to invest in professional learning opportunities for the workforce to enable to support that growth. We're very aware that language and culture are a part of common elements of the professional standards for teachers and leaders and teaching assistants. All have a role to promote the language and culture of Wales regularly, and this is what's been highlighted in the standards. This will enable pupils to develop skills across the areas of learning and experience, and that every opportunity should be given to extend their skills. You'll see the reference in the professional learning standards to Welsh and culture, and there should be a personal commitment to improve individual skills and to show how exciting learning the language can be, aiming towards pupils' involvement at all levels. And then the standards for the leadership roles in relation to pedagogy talks about giving an example by a positive role model, leading to the advantages, taking advantage on every opportunity to promote the Welsh culture and increase the use of the Welsh language in formal and informal settings. All of this is promoted and supported by strategic Welsh plans in all local authorities across Wales that will come into force in September. Every local authority have created how they're going to prioritise in the next 10 years to increase the use of the Welsh language across the educational sector. Before half term, the Welsh Government published this document, a 10-year plan launched to increase the number of Welsh-speaking teachers to promote the vision for 2050. It includes the action plan to increase the workforce capacity and promoting Welsh language skills and expertise within the workforce, and to support leaders to plan strategically to develop the Welsh language within schools. It supports local authorities to achieve their aims in education. As we consider the numerous factors that influence children during their school years. The Wellbeing Act also gives attention to the Welsh language and culture, and the 7 objectives demonstrate the type of Wales we would like, and all public bodies must work to achieve all of these aims. And to get a Wales that is thriving and where the Welsh language is promoted, we must consider this act as well and encourage people to contribute in the arts and sports and leisure through the Welsh language also. So that's the context in relation to setting the Welsh language as a mandatory curricular element, where all schools need to give appropriate attention to the language from 3 to 16 years of age. In this context, practically, this is what schools can start to consider to tackle the challenge. The pandemic has set this challenge for each school and has meant that we need to consider once more how to develop the Welsh language in every sector in Welsh medium, bilingual and English medium schools. As I mentioned earlier, it will be different from school to school and from authority to authority. What's important is that you understand and are very clear about your starting point. What is the current provision? Who is your workforce? What skills do they have? What will be considered first and how you will tackle things? And who are the key people who can help you? Developing the Welsh language will be a long-term aim, and there will be support along the journey from many partners. And so that we can give the opportunity for all pupils to be bilingual and to reach that 1 million speakers aim, as well as contributing to lifelong opportunities, we will need to increase the number of learners in English medium schools that are successful in learning the language, whilst maintaining the language within the Welsh medium and bilingual schools. We are very aware of the culture of schools in many schools and their encouragement to learn the language and enjoy the language. Another target is to increase the number of teachers who educate through the medium of Welsh. It could appear to be a big task, especially since it's not a discipline within the area of learning specifically, but developing literacy skills in Welsh is important, and also to develop the experiences, information and skills of learners to appreciate their Welsh identity and to have a pride in their culture and language and heritage. It's crucial to indicate that it's a marathon over a period of time rather than a short sprint, and that we need to plan carefully and that there needs to be purposeful support all along that journey to achieve this vision. If we consider more carefully what needs to be considered to support and to develop the Welsh language, strategic planning is an obvious starting place. Putting the principles of organisations that are learning and giving more consideration to the Welsh language is essential, and these bullet points summarise what leaders need to consider as strengths and successes and to be celebrating, or as aims to be developed. We'll then need to plan purposefully to do these steps over a period of time to ingrain these principles. Schools can deal with a few at a time or tackling many together. And in reviewing these points, you could consider a range of sources of information, evaluated regularly as a team in school, sharing what works well, and developing opportunities to collaborate, which will then feed the priorities for improvement and will tie in with professional learning opportunities. I should emphasise that this isn't a list that needs to be completed by September, but headings that support over time and hopefully will help you as schools to know what could contribute effectively towards the aim. As we consider what needs to be considered for the professional learning of the workforce, this will happen on a number of levels, and every school will complete an assessment in November of all of the workforce, and there are specific questions in the census on their proficiencies in the Welsh language, and the link is here. This information is really useful to plan what training is relevant for different members of staff. And if the Welsh language is a priority within the school, who will be leading? And how do we develop them to get the most positive impact within the school? Another aspect for consideration is what support is required to teach Welsh, either as a subject or as a medium. And this could be in different forms. For instance, developing oracy strategies such as the Ein Llais Ni, or reading intervention and training that needs to be being put in place to do that. You could consider how effective your research is also to ensure so what you put into practice is based on firm data. And all of this would tie in with developing the professional elements that refer to the Welsh language and the role of practitioners to support the language and culture of Wales. The discussion points on this slide are relevant for Welsh medium and bilingual schools on the Welsh side. And then there's we talk about the Siarter Iaith, for instance, but the version is slightly different for English version. On the right, we talks about the Continuum and Cymraeg campus. At the moment, the government are going through responses to the unstatutory elements in English medium education, and the results of that work will come in due course. You will see from the points that it's possible to deal with some of these together, and you may feel comfortable that a few aspects are firm and in place. Support will be available to develop the elements that require attention, either through your local authority or through GWE, or a combination of the partnership between us all as a region and authorities. I don't think the slides are moving, are they? Oh. This is an example so that you can see the different elements for discussion. There will be an opportunity to consider these in further detail this term and in the next educational term. So keep an eye out for these, and there will be some links. That link at the bottom will become live, and there will be further support available later. And this is the English version, or the English medium. And the Welsh and bilingual medium, which is slightly different. How do we go about doing this? As we design a curriculum, we need to ensure that the Welsh language has a prominent place, and we need to share information regularly with the school community and how you address this statutory element. As you plan the journey of the Welsh language in your school, go about considering different voices, and so that everyone is clear about what they need to do, and if there is collaboration that's possible, departments working together or schools working together, then that would be great. And then consider the reviewing. Is what you're putting in place making a difference to the learners? If you were looking for a statement, this is one that could be adjusted for any school. But behind this statement, there will be much more discussion and information in relation to how to put this in practice. These slides are examples that have been shared by schools within the region. This is a Welsh medium school in Gwynedd, in Bangor, where the learners receive bilingual education in a Welsh environment, and you will see a reference to that within these bullet points. This is an English medium secondary school. And this picture summarises their intentions for the Welsh language and quotes Tolkien. And this is another example of the kind of provision in a secondary school. I'll pass over now to Louise, who will provide some further details before we break out. Hoping that the sound is working for Louise.
I hope so too. Can you hear me? Thanks, Catherine. So English is also one of the mandatory elements that's on that list. And as Catherine's mentioned, the main aim is to develop pupils who communicate effectively in different forms and settings using both English and Welsh. In relation to the development of English linguistic skills, schools have the discretion as to what extent they introduce English up to the age of 7. This means that the individual choice of the school, as well as the language policy relating to the school's categorisation as to how and when they introduce English prior to this age. Whatever category, according to the Welsh medium provision your school has, when writing your curriculum statements and in planning for the new curriculum, you must consider the strategies you will use to teach speaking and listening in English, reading in English, and writing in English, in order for you to encourage the development of truly bilingual learners. So as you can see within the, sorry, here's the Welsh version here. As you can see within the curriculum design documents of both of these schools, there's clear statements that make explicit how the school endeavours to create a bilingual environment. Ysgol Aber explaining their strategy for Welsh immersion and the introduction of English at 7, and Ysgol for Dyffryn making explicit reference as to how they will marry the language in their curriculum. And again, the version in Welsh is there for you. So similarly, in these curriculum designs, here we have the curriculum design model for Ysgol Bryn for the secondary school. And in these curriculum designs models for the secondary sector, we can see that English and Welsh have purposeful statements that underpin the school's approach to bilingualism in the school. Can you just move it on to the next slide, Catherine, for me, just to zoom in on those one. So in Ysgol Bryn, the strategies are clearly planned for both languages with focused strategies that show how the pupils in Year 7 will be encouraged to be bilingual. And as Catherine has showed you previously, with the view on developing Cymraeg, we could only have to tweak this same infographic with replacing the Cymraeg with English, Welsh and bilingualism. And we can see that the strategic planning process would be the same for both languages. Overall, the main success of your language policy will be pupils who are informed enough to be creative, capable, ambitious pupils who are confident to speak in both languages. I'll pass back over to you, Catherine.
Diolch, Louise. Dwi ddim yn mynd I ymddiheuro.
I won't apologise for returning to the successes of last week and share 2 videos, Mr. Earth on the celebration of the largest youth organisation and then the fabulous win, which stimulates an interest in the language. These may be useful for you next term if you want to share these experiences of seeing Wales in the World Cup with your learners. For the next quarter of an hour, we'll be going to a discussion room. If you could consider what these will mean to you as a school and what you feel will need to plan for. If we could go. And we'll have some feedback after we've come back.